All right, so we're trying to get these mic levels tight.
Mic check. Hello. Hello. It's not quite getting to where I want it to get. I kind of like it when it goes over.
No, but I don't think that in terms of the quality of the audio, when you listen back to the podcast, our audience may be like, "Oh, you blowing me out."
I got it.
My ears.
Okay, I got it. I understand. All right, you ready? You ready to do the intro?
Okay.
You remember the title?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is the power of a married couple? This is the Joyfully Married After Podcast, episode 43.
Let's see what that sounds like.
What is the power of a married couple? This is the Joyfully Married After Podcast, episode 43.
Okay, Heath.
You know, I'm going to have some voiceover game at some point, you know. I can envision the time will come when we have our SAG cards and they're tapping Heath and Tracy to do some voiceover work.
I told you he was a dreamer.
You know, they're gonna come to us. They're gonna come to us.
Ready?
Hey baby, how you doing?
Wonderful. Welcome to March.
My love. It's so good to be married.
It is so good to be married.
Shout out to all the single people too.
Y'all good? It's all good. It's a choice.
You have to be single before you can be married.
Most definitely.
Well, some people can be married and then they go to another marriage.
Okay. It's still married.
That's right. Try if at first you don't succeed.
Try again.
What are we talking about today, baby?
We are talking about the power of a married couple.
Power, boom, boom.
And to be...
boom,
we're singing?
Power, boom, boom.
I don't know.
Remember
this
that one?
No.
No?
I don't know.
That's
that
cool.
one.
Talk about the power of a married couple, baby.
And this week, we're going to, talk about the Jordyn Woods situation.
Don't talk about it, be about it.
But we're not talking about her situation specifically. I think that one's been running aground.
We're talking about it from the perspective of what we saw, what we witnessed, from the perspective of the established, mature, married couple that weighed in on the situation.
The power of that married couple.
And it was very powerful.
It was very powerful.
And it was very succinct.
It was swift.
And meaningful.
And I'm going to say the word again. Powerful. I loved it.
There was a lot of power. You were into this week, baby.
So I'm going to tell you why I was into this.
And you know, the entire United States was into it. I'm not sure how it played globally, but I mean, the Twitterverse was talking about it.
It blew up.
We were listening to people. We were overhearing people in the restaurants talking about it when we were just getting breakfast yesterday. It
touched us. Mm-hmm. I think when it all began, we didn't so much feel the betrayal because we understood the situation with Khloe Kardashian and her baby daddy.
Yeah.
So it wasn't much empathy there. Not for me anyway.
Right.
I didn't have much empathy for the situation. I did have empathy for Jordyn Woods because I understood what was going on.
Right.
Just like Will and Jada Smith understood what was going on. And this is my opinion, y'all. This is my podcast.
Here we go. Speak on it.
I felt it was over the top. And this was a week ago when it all happened.
You felt what was over the top?
I felt the young girl, Jordyn Woods, was being targeted unnecessarily.
Okay. So basically she was a scapegoat.
I think she was. I think that's exactly what it was.
Okay.
I think it was calculated. I think it was planned. And I had to use this as a lesson for our children.
Yeah, we did talk about it. Yeah, I know you had several conversations with the girls and with our sons as well about if that were us or we were thrust into the situation and we were if the Turners were the Kardashians.
If we had 20 million viewers and 20 million everything.
Which we could one day. And even if we don't, we were extrapolating what that would look like and what that would feel like for our family.
Yeah, if we took, and I gave them the example of a family friend very close to us.
Right.
And I said, what if she did that? Would we do that to her? And their immediate answer was,
they were like,
no. I said, what does that tell you?
Right.
That tells you there is some question to that relationship that Jordyn was interpreting with her friends.
Right.
And I think Will and Jada, as her surrogates, saw that too. That's the first thing I saw.
Yeah. So for people who may not understand the depths of the relationship dynamic between Will and Jada and Jordyn, why don't you frame that a little bit?
Yeah. Jordyn Woods' father was a sound engineer on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for the entire run of the show.
Okay.
And I believe he was friends with Will Smith prior to Jordyn's birth. So, of course, once Jordyn was born and Jaden was born, it was just kind of a mesh.
It was like extended family.
It was like extended family with one another. And those two grew up with one another.
Who grew up with one another?
Jaden and Jordyn.
Jaden Smith.
Yes.
Will Smith and Jada Pinkett's son.
Yes.
Okay.
And over the course of time, Jaden introduced Jordyn Woods to Kylie Kardashian.
Because they were friends.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
you know, they all rich kids living in LA.
Right.
So after Jordyn and Kylie met, they became great friends.
Okay.
You know, she's not some chick they picked up off the street and, you know, mooching off Kylie. This is not the situation.
Right.
And I thought it was great, and that Jada brought that up during the Red Table Talk. I thought it was great.
I didn't see the Red Table Talk, but what was the main thing that you brought from that?
I brought that they love her. I think
the
Smiths love her like she's one of them.
Okay.
And I think she needed that more than anything at that time. I think they were courageous in expressing all of this, because before the Red Table Talk, everybody was against this young woman.
Right.
And for them to risk their light and their limelight, they didn't know exactly how this was going to come out. Or maybe they did. Maybe they're just that good. But I think it was courageous of them to do this with her, for her, and in the manner in which they did it. They took time. Will took time off the set of him filming Bad Boys 3.
Oh, wow.
To stop and say, hey, we got you.
Yeah.
These were his words. No matter what, we got you. We are not going to let them destroy you. This is what he said to her.
Really powerful.
It's very powerful.
And I think that has to do with the wisdom and the discernment that couple has, right? And when you relate it to some of the things that we've been teaching around marriage intelligence and having empathy and compassion for what's happening with someone who's close to them, and being able to leverage some wisdom and discernment, which we haven't gotten to. But the point is that when you are a mature married couple and you've been together for some time and you've seen a number of these things play out in life in different ways, all of that experience and wealth and life scenarios comes into play where they can say, I've seen this before. I know how this is going to play out. Jordyn, we got you.
Exactly.
Don't worry about it. Take a step back. Keep moving.
I also thought it was powerful that Will said, I got you. And that they made his words and his face prominent. Because we have a tendency to negate defenses when it's one-sided, when it's just the mother. And I'm going to put this out here.
Sure.
And a lot of times I hear people say, well, where's the father? Well, her father has transitioned. And Will stepped in to that role for this young woman.
I'm your dad in this scenario.
I'm your dad in this scenario.
Don't worry
Let's
about
deal with that.
I got you, baby.
Don't worry about anything else. I got you. And to me, it was powerful.
Yep.
And Heath and I do this because we want to express and communicate how powerful it is for a team, a couple, to support whatever cause they're going after. It's just something more powerful about the two of you.
Right.
We have so many young men and women out here trying to get it by themselves. And I think what they saw this week in the Smiths was how powerful it is when it's two of you.
Right. And I think that what you see is the order.
Yes.
What you see is the picture of what it's supposed to look like. And I think that
how it's designed.
the grand design.
The grand design of it.
Yeah, and I think that the wisdom and the discernment and the quiet confidence of how they engaged was just phenomenal.
It really filled me up with so many things. It filled me up as a Black woman. It filled me up as a Black couple.
Yeah.
It filled me up as a couple. It filled me up as married people.
Yeah.
It filled me up just overall. Their example of how we act as married people.
Right.
They just kicked into gear. This was not the emotions they were feeling, the advice they gave her was from the experience of marriage. Empathy, forgiveness, foresight, wisdom, experience. All of that was their combined experiences. And Jada shared that on the show.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with how they did that. And it was just so fulfilling. And I really want people to look at that. Forget about what's going on with Jordyn Woods. She's going to be fine.
Yep.
People have her in prayer. People are lifting her up. People are supporting her.
Yep.
I want you to look at how that situation was handled within that married couple and ask yourself, if, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, if Oprah had done that show, would it have had the same effect? What do you think?
Yeah.
I don't think it would have.
Yeah. I think that certainly there's always, that's kind of the old adage of two is better than one, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's back to the grand design. And I think another thing that jumped out at me was thinking about the perspective of their wealth.
Yeah.
Of Will and Jada's wealth.
Yeah.
And very often we think about wealth as a way for people to just have a lot of self-indulgence and doing all these different things that
which is fun,
that wealthy people do.
Yeah.
Yes, which can be very fun.
Yeah,
certainly. And I think that the way that this played out in this scenario also was an example of how, when you've experienced these things and when you've had this phenomenal union and the results of all these different scenarios put them in such a place of comfort and command and experience and discernment and wherewithal and being able to impart a safety net of sorts for Jordyn.
Wait, an immediate safety net.
Was such an example of being blessed to be a blessing.
Yeah. And I think it also shows a lot of selflessness. A lot of selflessness with them. I think it compounds, once again, our thesis that marriage is so much better. It's so much better for everyone. And I'm sure a lot of people didn't think about it in this way. That's what I saw immediately as a married person. I saw, look at the support system, because it's an automatic win.
Right.
It's an automatic win. And a lot of the challenges that Chloe is having is because she's not married. A lot of the stones thrown at her are because she's not married.
Right.
And I'm not condoning that. That's not what I'm saying here. But that's where people have a tendency to go, and that they go for where they see weakness.
Right.
And it is weaker, let's just be honest here, it is weaker to not be married in this situation. If Chloe had been married to Tristan, it would have been difficult.
Yeah, it changes the dynamic.
It changes the entire dynamics.
Right. It does. And so I think that you're spot on, baby, with your assessment there. And when you are coming at a family, when you're coming at a married couple, when you're coming at people who have a support system and people around them and people with them and people with experience and people with wealth and people with education and people that have it together, it's very different than coming at that situation in another way. And so I think that the power that we saw within this couple's action was very evident, bringing that order and that power to this situation that was very chaotic.
Right. And I think another point I want to point out is just, yes, the Smiths are wealthy. The Smiths are famous. Their children are wealthy and famous. I want to point out that it doesn't have to be that way. The fact that they were a bonded married couple with experience, with years of experience of being married, they were able to help this young woman navigate this situation.
Yep.
And you don't have to be rich and famous to do that. And that's the beauty of marriage. You don't have to be rich and famous to help your kids navigate a situation. When you show up and when you support and you love and just show them through your experience, through your marriage, how to navigate difficult situations in life, this is what it looks like. That is exactly what it looks like. Their wealth and them being famous has nothing to do with it.
And just to further qualify what we're talking about here, we're not saying that if you're a single parent household that you aren't able to stand instead with your children and offer the same type of support. What we're pointing out is the power of the union in this particular scenario, because that's what we do and that's what we want people to aspire to. Not to say that you can't do that if you're a single parent.
Absolutely not. I think it's important. Thank you for pointing that out, Heath, because I think that's important to communicate. My mom was a single parent for many years in my childhood. But what I do remember was that when there was a situation that she needed extra support, she pulled my father in. At one point, and she would pull us in. When she was a single parent with my brother, she pulled us in.
Sure.
And that is the message, that two is better than one. When I'm dealing with something with the boys, I always want their teachers, their coaches, whomever they're dealing with to know this kid has two people that are looking after him. When my girls are dealing, this kid has two parents. And I think it's great you didn't focus on just the two people. I'm just showing in this particular situation the power of a married couple. So we're not negating anything else or any other type of situation. We are focusing on marriage and why you want to stay married and why you want to push your marriage to the forefront and how it builds legacy and how we need to be married and how we need to stay married. And then what Heath and I propose is figure out how you stay married. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't worry about how they did it and how they got where they got. It's not going to be how you do it.
Sure.
It's so important to remember that. I think there's too much pressure out there these days with people trying to stay married a certain way. The biblical way, okay? The way my mom and dad did it. The way I see my pastor and his wife do it. Whatever vision you see out there in being married, that's not yours.
It's certainly good to have models and guides for people, for you to aspire to, for you to look at as a benchmark and those kinds of things. But to your point, you have to make it work for you, because you are a person and the person that you're with is a person, and their strengths, their characteristics, their mannerisms, their life experiences, all these things make up them. And so I think that what you're talking about is so spot on, baby, from the perspective of that you have to make it work for you. And I think that we were actually alluding to Will and Jada in an earlier podcast that we did around this same kind of conversation, because they, I think it was, we were talking about life partners, right? And so that was one of the things that they said was that they felt like their relationship was even further beyond a marriage, right? They were like, this thing is unbreakable. This is a bond that we have. Nobody can come to this. And so the perspective was that they could do whatever it is that they want
in their marriage.
It's their marriage. But regardless, they were going to be together.
Exactly.
And if you come messing with them,
you see what happens.
You're going to have a problem.
You see what happens.
And so I thought that was very poignant from the perspective of that this was an example of that.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to, if you're going to do anything in your marriage, you're going to figure out how to stay married. That's what you do. If you can't stay married the way the world says to stay married, if you can't stay married the way the church says to stay married, if you can't stay married the way I don't know, your mama and daddy say married, I don't know, whoever, then you need to figure that out.
Right.
That's how important we think it is. We're Christian. We're believers of Christ. We speak in tongues. We go to church. We do all that stuff. But we're not going to sit here in judgment and tell you how to be married. We're going to help you find the tools within yourselves, within your marriage, not ours. Ours is our marriage. Will and Jada, that's their marriage.
Right.
We're just going to show you examples and we're going to communicate to you different ways to go about it, because there are ways to be married and there are ways not to be married. And you have to figure out your way. What's your fingerprint? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and this was certainly an example of some of the marriage intelligence qualities that we've been talking about, and so we're gonna dive into those a little bit more as we get into the month of March. So
which one are we going to talk about in March?
So we're talking about compassion.
Wow, yeah, compassion.
Which is certainly we've seen in this particular scenario that we've outlined today. And so when you talk about empathy, compassion, being connected to that so intricately, and how you need to deploy that in your relationship with one another is very key. And so we'll be talking about that quite a bit this month. So check us out on our live broadcast, our live streaming show called The Love Seat. We do that every Monday at 7 on Instagram and Facebook Live.
Yeah, if you check out Mondays at 7, if you turn on your notifications, you'll get a reminder that we're getting ready to hop on. So we hop on at 7 p.m., either Instagram, IG, or Facebook, whichever way you prefer to watch.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Now, you said we're going to talk about compassion in March. What about it?
Compassion. Oh, that's Rod Stewart. That was a.
How do you find? Where do these songs come from in your head?
It's like a keyword. It's like my head. I have Google inside my head.
Oh.
So it's all keyword centric.
No, it's called Genius, isn't it? It's not Google.
Is
it's
that
Genius.
what it is? It's Genius.
Yeah, when you find the song and you play the songs.
Well, I am a genius, baby.
Okay, okay, baby. That's what you want. That's fine with me.
How in the world could I have gotten you if I was
a genius? Ooh, I like that.
So yeah, we're talking about compassion, and so being able to leverage empathy, understand when your person is going through something, when they're experiencing something, you have to be able to put yourself in their shoes and understand that they may deal with something in a different way, they may process it in a different way than you do.
Right.
So you can't just make a snap judgment and what's wrong with you? Why are you tripping so on and so on? So you have to stop, step back, pause, and understand that they may be experiencing it in a different way, and so you have to put yourself into them and be able to be tender enough to understand how you can deploy some patience and help them through that particular scenario, and then they'll be better on the other side.
So we're talking about the qualities of marriage intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Last month we talked about self-awareness.
We did.
You need self-awareness to find a good marriage, to be in a good marriage, to look for. Somebody asked us what constitutes a person that's ready for marriage, and we felt that self-awareness was one of those things. And now we're going to talk about compassion. That person needs compassion.
Yep.
Well, that's going to do it for today.
That's right. We'll look for y'all on the next one.
Don't forget.
Stay connected.
Stay connected.
Stay connected to God. Stay connected to your family, and stay connected to your spouse
or your significant other.
We love y'all. HeathenTracy.com.
Heathen Tracy.
Yeah.
Woo! Okay, one down.
Gotta stop it, baby.
I'm trying.
Hit me. 3 times.
It won't stop.
This remote's been like this ever since we bought it. It's just quirky. It's quirky like that. You think it's the battery? You think it's the mechanism? I mean, it is like a little plastic remote. Let me try, baby.
It won't stop.
It don't stop.
Won't stop.
It don't quit.
Don't stop. I need some air on the subject. Power surge.
Power boom boom. Power boom boom boom. Power boom. All right, this is what we're gonna do.